Hello everybody, welcome to Teaching Turtle. My name is Mr. Turtle, your art instructor here today. In today's segment, we'll be going over lights and shadows and where they fall in the form of certain objects. Step one, we put down on the paper a gray shade, a medium gray shade, and a dark gray shade. These are going to represent in the end our shadows and our light areas, as well as our medium tones in the middle. In step two, we're going to take our medium shade of gray to create different shapes. I'm going to start with a circle, a triangle, a square, a octagon, and let's do a cylinder. Step 3, you want to isolate the shapes that you just created. I go to the layers tool, I click the layer, and I press select. This now has isolated all the shapes that I have drawn. Step 4 is understanding the shadow. We're going to take our airbrush tool now and click on the dark shade of gray that we have at the top. We know that the light is coming from the top left of the object, so the bottom right of the object will be having the most shadow. In step 5, we want to do the exact same thing as we did with the shadow, but now we get the light tone. We know that the most light is going to be hitting the top left side, so that is where we're going to start our airbrush and lightly move towards the middle. We know that the most light is getting hit on the left side, so that's where you want it to be the lightest area. While painting a sphere shape, it is important to know that there will always be a focal point where the light will hit the most. A lot of people will call that the highlight, or the most light hitting one area at one time. In step 6, we're going to turn a triangle into a pyramid. I'll take the dark tone, our airbrush, and we're going to understand that the entire right side will be in shadow if the light was hitting the top left. As you notice, the dark tone was a little bit too dark for the shadow. It looks unnatural. So what I do is I take the medium tone gray with the airbrush, I bring the opacity down, and I go over that dark tone to get a more realistic shadow. If the gradients of gray are too dark and too light, it makes things not blend very nice. So you want to make sure that you really study how light falls on an object to understand how to draw the object to the best of your abilities. In step 7, we're now going to tackle this square, rectangle, abstract shape. We're going to establish where our darks or our shadows lie within the object first. Now we are going to take our light grade of gray and color in the whole top of the square. That is where the light is hitting the most on the object. If you notice, once again, similar to the triangle, that the dark shade in the square is a little bit too dark. So what we'll do now is take the medium gray tone, put our opacity down, and go over the dark area until it is a better shade of gray. Now that we have turned our square into a cube, I am very pleased with this result. We will now go on to step 8. In order to turn an octagon 3D, we must remember how light falls on a triangle and a pyramid. That will really help define how you make the shape look 3D. Once I have established where the shadows will lie within this octagon complex shape, now I will take the highlights and I will go in and establish where the lightest areas will be. These complex shapes like octagons and diamonds are very fun to draw and are great highlights and shadows practice because light and darks are hitting the object so drastically that it creates shape without having a solid line. So when you're practicing things like this, you should look at jewelry and gold and silver and understand how the light is hitting the object at all different angles, creating this illusion of very shiny metal. In step 9, we're going to tackle the cylinder shape. We know that the top of the cylinder is going to be receiving the most light and the bottom of the cylinder is going to receive the most shadow. Now we're going to take our highlight gradient and we're going to put it where the light is hitting the most. And we're going to now create this drum-like space for the light to fall into the cylinder. We are now going to take our medium gray tone and go back into the shadow. The shadow is a bit darker than what we need it to be. So we're going to make it look a little more realistic with a lighter gray tone. When I'm shading in a cylinder object, I like to imagine that the light is falling on a curved object, not just a straight or flat. So when I think about how light falls on a sphere and how it falls on a triangle, that's the mind state that I take in when I'm coloring in a sphere object. Step 10, we're going to unselect the layer that we just did and create a new layer underneath for the shadows. For the cast shadows, I like to use a dark gray that is a little darker than the darkest gray that's already been used. While creating the cast shadow, you want to imagine how the object would respond if the sun was actually hitting it. So you wouldn't want a square shadow on a spherical object. That would not make any sense. Vice versa, you wouldn't want a spherical shadow on a triangle object. That also would not make much sense, huh? Thank you all for watching my 10 steps on how to shade and highlight an object in PROCREATE. Be sure to click the like button and subscribe for more art tutorial videos by me, Mr. Turtle, the art teacher. Until next time, peace out.